Ever stop and think about who actually invented the stuff you use every single day? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on some of the most brilliant and, yeah, often invisible figures in science and tech. These are the black innovators whose work literally built the world we live in. So, let's dive in.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at some amazing inventions that are kind of hiding in plain sight. Then, we'll meet some of the true pioneers, the ones who were the very first through the door. We'll see how they engineered our modern world, and we'll meet the incredible women who literally calculated our way to the stars. After that, we got to ask the tough question: why were these stories buried for so long? And finally, we'll see how we can make the invisible visible once again. All right, let's kick things off with the world you see and touch every single day. We're talking about technology that is so much a part of our lives, we totally take it for granted, forgetting it was ever invented in the first place. I mean, seriously, just think about your commute this morning, or your last phone call. Who are the inventors you should be thanking for getting you from point A to point B safely, or just staying connected? The answer? Well, it's probably not who you think. You know, that traffic light that saved you from a potential accident? Or the microphone in your phone that let you take that important hands-free call? What about the GPS that got you to that new restaurant without a single wrong turn? These things didn't just appear out of nowhere. They are the legacy of specific, brilliant people whose names we really should all know.
So to really get why these names aren't household names, we have to go back and look at the unbelievable hurdles these innovators had to clear. See, being a genius wasn't enough. They had to be the first ones to smash through walls that were specifically designed to keep them out.
Okay, take Edward Bouchet. In 1876, he earned a PhD in physics from Yale. I mean, let that sink in. This wasn't just a big deal for him, it was a historic first for any black American in any field. He was a trailblazer in the absolute truest sense of the word. Now, this is where the story gets, well, it's infuriating. On the one hand, you've got his qualifications. A PhD in physics from Yale, summa cum laude, top of his class. His dream was to be a researcher. But the reality? The highest position he could ever get was being the principal of a high school. This just perfectly and tragically shows the systemic roadblocks that stopped even the most brilliant minds from reaching their full potential.
But here's the thing. Those barriers didn't stop them. So let's circle back to those everyday gadgets we talked about and meet the incredible people who, against all odds, literally engineered the world we live in today.
All right, here are 3 names you absolutely need to remember. We've got Garrett Morgan, a true master of safety. James West, the architect of the sound you hear every day. And Gladys West, the mathematician whose genius guides us all around the planet.
Garrett Morgan's genius came from seeing a problem and needing to fix it. He saw this awful carriage accident at a chaotic intersection, and instead of just being horrified, he got to work. He invented the 3-position traffic signal. He's the reason we have the yellow light, that crucial warning that gives us all time to slow down and stop safely. He literally made our streets safer for everyone. Okay, now think about the microphone, the one in your phone, your laptop, maybe even your earbuds. Chances are it's all thanks to James West. While he was at the legendary Bell Labs, he co-invented something called the electret microphone. And this wasn't just a small step forward, it was a complete game changer. It's what made microphones small, affordable, and super reliable for the very first time. And get this wasn't some niche invention. It became the standard. Today, over 90%, let me say that again, 90% of all microphones made every single year are based on the technology James West helped create. That's an absolutely massive global impact. And then we have the amazing Dr. Gladys West. Put it this way, without her, that GPS you use every day just wouldn't work. It's that simple. She was a mathematician who created these unbelievably complex and precise models of the Earth's true shape. It's a field called geodesy. And those calculations she made, they became the essential bedrock, the foundation for the entire global positioning system. And if you want to understand the scale of her work, just look at this number. Over 4 billion people rely on GPS technology every single day. So yeah, every time you pull up a map on your phone to find the quickest route, you are tapping directly into the legacy of Gladys West's brilliant mind. But, you know, innovation isn't always about one single genius having a eureka moment. Sometimes it's about a whole team of brilliant people. And that brings us to the human computers at one of the most famous places on Earth, NASA. Way before we had supercomputers, NASA ran on brain power. They literally had people they called human computers.
And at the segregated West Area Computing Unit, an incredible team of black women, names like Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Katherine Johnson, were doing the math that fueled the entire space race. We're talking about plotting rocket trajectories, figuring out orbital mechanics, all by hand, with nothing more than a pencil, paper, and their incredible minds.
And this comparison just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have the painstaking, world-changing calculations being done on the ground by these amazing women, and on the other, you have the result. Their work was the invisible engine that launched America into space. Without them, huge moments in human history like the Apollo missions or even the International Space Station, they just don't happen. They literally calculated our way to the stars.
So, this brings us to the big question, the why of it all. If their work was so fundamental, so important, why aren't names like Boucher, Morgan, West, Vaughan, Johnson, and Jackson as famous as Einstein or Edison? Why have they been hidden figures for so long?
Well, to really get it, we have to look at the historical system that was in place. Science, like so many other institutions back then, was built on a colonial worldview. And that's basically a system of domination, where one group controls another, their land, and their resources. This didn't just create a hierarchy of people, it created a hierarchy of knowledge, deciding whose ideas were worth celebrating and whose were, well, ignored.
And this quote from historians really nails it. Because of this system, the contributions of black innovators were, and I quote, often co-opted, intentionally unacknowledged, and forgotten. It wasn't an accident. It was a pattern.
But here's the good news. History isn't set in stone. We can actually go back and correct the record. So for this last part, let's talk about the amazing work happening right now to bring these stories out of the shadows and make these hidden figures visible for everyone.
Right now, there's a huge movement to decolonize science. You've got initiatives like Black and Natural History Museums that are digging into the archives, uncovering these stories, and celebrating the people who were left out of the textbooks. It's all about rewriting them back into the history that they were so crucial in creating. And that really leaves us with one last really important question to think about. Learning about the hidden figures of the past, it forces us to look around at our world today. Whose contributions are we overlooking right now? Whose genius is going unnoticed? Because the work of making the invisible visible, that job is never really finished.